Welcome to the Metapod, the earliest recording Pokemon TCG podcast that revolves around the evolving meta. I'm currently looking for a new partner because Sean told me to get up at 7 a.m., but he's got his mug here today, so I guess maybe I can keep it for another week. He does have a Pokemon mug. I do not have a Pokemon mug, so I guess I'm fired on that. Sean, how are you doing this morning?
I'm good. You have a dad mug, right?
Yes, I have a dad mug. It's all about fishing.
Oh,
Because
Jake.
my dad is a big hunter fisher guy.
Jake.
Try to show it to everybody on the YouTube, but it says work is just something I do in between fishing trips. So he's a big fisherman, hunter type guy. So it's my favorite mug. It's my favorite mug that my dad has.
It's early, but we do have some things that we know have gone on in the Pokemon trading card game in the last week. First, Sean, though, we do have to talk about the coolest thing that you can do to support the Metapod, and that is leave a 5-star review. So Sean wants to read this week.
Mm-hmm.
Sean, give it away. What is our wonderful review this week? We did get another review, so thank you so much to whoever left the new review.
Yeah, this review though is from Seasick Panda. Great podcast. Hey, I just found this podcast and I love it. I've listened to meta podcasts about other games, usually mobile, in the past, and it feels right at home. My son recently became interested in the Pokemon TCG, and I decided to get into it with him, at least to start helping him understand the game. I never played when younger, but was always interested, and I'm taking the chance to be a good dad and do something I want at the same time. My only hope for the podcast would be an occasional episode or even one that can be referred back to later on that helps people just getting started in the game. Good idea. If that already exists, please forgive my poor research. As a brand new player, I can't keep track of all the different generations and which ones are legal, which ones aren't, what they're worth potentially, or even a good reference to start at. I've gone to the TCG website and stuff like that. It seems to be buried in rule books that I struggle to get through without trying to pull that information from as well. Anyway, great podcast. Keep up the good work. I hope you enjoy making it as much as we do listening.
I think probably after celebrations, because after celebrations there'll be a little lull period.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe then we would be able to create something. But for now, if you're impatient and maybe want to get to something now, I think Celios Network on YouTube has like a really good playlist and series of videos dedicated to new players. He's one of the bigger Pokemon TCG content creators on YouTube and also streams on Twitch. He's a personal friend of ours, so I highly recommend his videos. Can really help you out, especially with a lot of the stuff getting into it at the very beginning. But we could totally bring someone on in the future, like after celebrations and stuff, and that kind of cools down a little bit of like what all new players need to know. Because if you didn't see, Sean, a lot of people actually went to pre-releases this weekend. This weekend was Evolving Skies pre-releases. I don't think you did, because you did regional Digimon stuff, right?
I was doing regional Digimon, but I will be doing I'll be doing a pre-release stream, if you will, not on my channel, but one of my local stores, Third Universe, has a Twitch channel. So on Thursday night, I'm going to be doing a pre-release build and battle type thing, just with Sonia, the person's name is actually Sonia, and so they go by Professor Sonia. It's great.
Yeah, they're actually wonderful. Did you know them before the team challenges on Twitch?
I did, because obviously they're in my area.
Yeah, I wasn't sure though, because I don't ever remember. I guess now that I also know who they are, you started mentioning the store name, but I wasn't sure if you had just met on Twitch or.
Yeah, well, the funny thing is, I think we met because I think it was back when maybe Hidden Fates or Champions Path, I don't know, one of the chase sets, right? I did a thing where I would I was looking up different stores and driving around to try to find product. This was a while back now. And they were one of the stores that's if I want to go outside the NYC area, where am I going, right? Am I going to north of NYC? Am I going to Long Island? Am I going to Jersey? I was like, I don't really want to go to Long Island or Jersey. I can't really. That's more complicated than just going north. And so I was like looking up Walmarts and Targets and also card shops up north. And they were obviously on the list because that's where they are. And so that's when I met them. Great card store. And now that I've moved up even closer to them, they're only like a 30-minute drive from me now.
Ooh, that's pretty
So,
good.
Yeah, it's great. Lovely people.
I wish that I could have gotten a Marnie box though, Sean,
Oh,
because I went to card shops and Walmarts and Target. I don't even know if they sell them at Walmart and Target, but I was checking those anyways. I could not find a Marnie box. I could not find it. So I think, Sean, I've struck out when it comes to Marnie. I will say though, the full art is like less than $40 now. It's dropped down a little bit. And then the signed promo though, the signed card actually has increased since release. It went up like a little over $1. It's like $4.50 now.
Oh, okay, yeah. If the signed card, I could see going up from $1. $1 seems really
Well, it went
low.
from like $3.50 to like $4.50.
I mean, that makes about right. How much is the Marnie box? Was it $40 for the box?
Yeah, I think it was $40.
I mean, I would say like if you're buying it primarily for full art Marnie and you're chill, not getting all the other stuff in the box, whatever that might be.
Yeah.
I mean, picking up the single is the same as the box.
Yeah, it's just like I was really looking for it because not only would you get the single, you could like not guarantee that the promos are pristine, because we know the quality control of Pokemon. Like it's not guaranteed, but it's pretty much the best chance you're gonna get, right? Because it's not somebody else messing with it and then sending it in the mail. And then also there was like 7 packs in there.
Yeah, there's a decent amount of packs in there too. So
so it's like a really good value box, in my opinion.
And also, it looks like what is it? A milk carton? So
yeah, and you get sleeves. You get sleeves and stuff of like the Marnie signed promo, and it's really good. I don't know what kind of. I'd love to know like the type of sleeves though. So like I don't know, Sean, if you bought like the Nessa box or the like upcoming Sonya box or whatever that's in Japan. But those sleeves that came in are way different than like the usual ETBs or whatever. So I also want to know like what those Marnie sleeves are. If they're more similar to the Japan gym leader person character type boxes, or are they more like ETB. American or I should say rest of the world styled boxes?
I don't know. Listeners, tweet at us. Let us know if the sleeves are the good stuff from Japan or the garbage from the West, if you will.
You know, regardless of where you are, you can get something really cool, Sean, on PTCGO because of the 25th anniversary and Players Cup Finals. Players Cup Finals, I think?
Yeah, the 25th anniversary Players Cup.
Yeah, I really this Players Cup final. I mean, it's so hard after like the sets have been out for a little bit and these pre-recorded, like they're cool matches, but it's so hard to watch in my opinion. But anyways, you can get a gold free quick ball over on PTCGO if you type in 25th Anniv Champions. All capital letters get you a free gold quick ball. Only 50,000 can be redeemed. I don't know if these have ever run out. I think the last time there was like a timer that it was only like open for a certain amount of days. But if you haven't gotten it already, I'm sure it's still open. Go snag it. Quick ball, one of the best cards in the game. It's a staple in almost every single deck. Gold quick balls, got to flex on the haters.
Yeah, I the one thing I will say just a little bit here, I think the idea of the Players Cup 25th anniversary, really cool. A lot of you, if you saw on Twitter, if you're in Poke Twitter, you saw a lot of the people who were announced for it. A lot of great names, Players Cup champions, former world champions, all that stuff. And I believe Alex Szymanski won, right?
I think so.
Yeah. But
because I think it was Alex Szymanski and, oh gosh, I'm going to feel bad. I don't remember their name. I hadn't heard of them before.
Oh, you were talking about the VGC?
No. I was talking about just the finals of the trading card game one.
I thought it was a Zool. That's what I heard in terms of a tweet. I thought it was like a Zool versus Alex in the final, and Alex was playing in the losers bracket for most of the tournament.
Oh, I don't know.
So
I don't know. Well, I mentioned earlier, I haven't really been paying too much attention to it.
I mean, it's one of
just
those,
for the codes.
Yeah, it's one of those tournaments that like all of the Players Cup finals content. I'm sure it's all very well put together and edited and all of that stuff, but the one thing,
The commentating's great as well.
exactly, like, but I think the problem with it is like you're competing with every other streamer, right, who is live playing decks. You're competing with any other types of videos people want to watch online. And I think because it's all pre-recorded, it doesn't feel that exciting. I know that sounds awful, but like,
and it's like, it's not just pre-recorded and like it was recorded yesterday. Like it's several weeks old.
yeah.
Like it's not like the meta, because of our turbo meta in the online era where everything changes and stuff. Like a lot of the decks are like old decks that we first saw when the meta released, and then now they've been adapted and evolved. So it's just a wild ride.
Which is absolutely different from when there's like a big regionals or NAIC or something and Pokemon streams that, because it's like, well, yeah, it's still like the Pokemon stream. It's not like the Pokemon stream ever interacts with its viewers, but at least then like you're watching because you're like, no, this is on this day. These are the best decks that could probably be built today, and people and the best players in the world are piloting them. And like, cool, that's valuable information as opposed to that was a really cool deck 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, exactly.
So
it's just, I don't know. I just wish it was more entertaining. But you know what is entertaining, Sean? I don't know if you watched the gym leader format.
I have heard a bit about it. You know, actually, Jake, that you can talk about it now for sure. And I should probably do some research and we should talk about that on a future ep.
Yeah, we should. I don't know if you saw in the middle of that conversation, but my mic like fell out of the stand.
I see you right now, just holding
just like holding up my, I don't know. Whoa, it was really wild. This happens like once a week now.
Or the mic just
because
like,
this table's not great. It doesn't hold it together, but I'm trying to hold it together here at 7 a.m. Sean, for the podcast. But we got a lot of stuff to talk about. We got to talk about the second half of Evolving Skies, the trainer cards. As we're saying, if you did not hear last week's episode, we went over a lot of the Pokemon that we liked and a lot of the Pokemon that we saw. So this week we're going to do a lot of the trainers now as well. And there's a good chunk of trainers that are really, really cool, both in like standard and expanded, in my opinion.
Yeah, a lot of
so
interesting
Sean,
ideas.
do you want to kick things off real quick?
I mean, I'll kick things
off. The first card?
Yeah. You can sort your mic out while I kick this off. The first thing I'm kicking off basically is probably the most garbage trainer in the set, to be honest, especially as a supporter as a Roma lady. It's just draw 2, and then your active Pokemon recovers from all special conditions, and I'm like, why does this card exist?
Well, look, it's like Hop, it's like how, you have like good supporters, you have like good trainer cards, and then you have bad ones.
I mean, this is one though that you know that all the pre-release kits came with 2 of these, right? The same way that when Hop and How came out, it was always, and you're like, maybe in pre-release it's not so bad because a draw card is not bad, and then maybe in pre-release there were some like cards in those kits, I don't know, that did like lots of special conditions. So it's like, yeah, that's great in those instances, but otherwise trash.
Hey, I mean, at least you get to draw 2 cards and you'll never be poisoned.
Yeah, I suppose.
Never have to flip for confusion, Sean.
Yeah, that's it, but you will be poisoned until you play the card. That's the thing.
Yes,
it's not
that is true.
Prevent
and then
your
you
Pokemon.
Can get poisoned again.
Yeah.
If you're facing Net's Weeping Bell, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Oh.
But anyways, this second card, Sean, I think is worth talking about. I think that this card is nuts and expanded. Sean, do you know what Evo Soda is?
I've heard of it. I know it's an expanded card, but please elaborate for myself and the listeners.
So Evo Soda is a card that allows you, it's an item card that once you play it, you can search your deck for something that evolves into one of your Pokemon and play it down. Don't have to have it in your hand. It's not like an evolution incense where you have to go get it. Well, I mean, you do have to go get it, but it's automatically just you're putting into an evolution right there. So Booster Shake, search your deck for a card that evolves from one of your Pokemon and put it onto that Pokemon to evolve it. Then shuffle your deck. Then the clause of like, if this is your Pokemon's first turn down, like it can't evolve.
Well, no, actually,
like
it's the opposite. You can use this card during your first turn or on a Pokemon that was put into play this turn. They're basically saying,
"Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, no, okay, so I lied."
Well, no, but I think, your reading is what they normally say, but on this one, that's what makes this card that much better is you can throw something down, then use Booster Shake. Now, at the top there, if you use the card, your turn ends. That's the little stipulation that I think might hold this card back, but there's almost certainly decks that are going to play this card.
I mean, I don't think it holds this back because, like, you look at expanded or you look at past standard formats. I don't think we have like an item lock type thing back in like, I think it was like Ancient Origins. Do you know the Trevenant item lock deck? There used to be in the X and Y era an old Trevenant card that with Wally, because Wally was legal at the time, you could like turn one item lock before your opponent could even do anything, because back then you could play supporters on the first turn as well. So this is what this reminds me of, Booster Shake, and the fact that it's an item card as well. The fact that it's an item card, it's not a supporter. If we do get something in the future, it doesn't have to be Evolving Skies and can be the fusion set in November, which we'll talk about here in the next couple episodes or so. I see that strategy coming back in.
Yeah, I think you're right. That's a good call out. Is like for especially those item lock decks or a deck that has a stage 1 with an ability that could be annoying for your opponent in any form. Then this becomes like a 3 or a 4 of in a deck, just because that's your strategy, right? Like get one of that on board, play this, evolve it, end your turn. But it's just like, okay, I've done exactly what I need.
I almost think that you play this in any like evolution deck, whether it's like VMAXs or just, I don't know, you've got a stage 2. Cause like, think about at the end of your turn, instead, cause you can only do so much with like Dedenne, Crobat, and not having like a draw supporter turn 1, but especially also if you're going second, how much power this gives you going second. Because now, let's say you're a stage 2 deck, you go from having little itty bitty 60, 70 HP Pokemon to now having something that's like 100, 110, which can, I think that can really help you out.
I think stage 2 decks, the problem that a lot of stage 2 decks have is you either need to find rare candy turn 2. Like you kind of have to. And I think, to your point, Jake, like this takes a little bit of pressure off if you can get, say, 2 basics of your line down, do some stuff on your turn, attach the energy, and then to end your turn, just use a Booster Shake to get one of those up to a stage 1, so that the following turn, all you have to do is just a manual Evo on both. And then at that point, you're actually at pace. Meaning, if you can get like into a stage 2, then the other one only ever needs to be a stage 1, and then you have a basic as well potentially, and that actually solves the problem of like you may not ever need rare candy in a deck like that, just because
it's almost like an out to rare candy.
So actually, the more I think about it, the more I'm like, getting one of these turn 1, if that means you don't have to play rare candy in a deck, that would be huge, because rare candy is It's a good card, but it is an annoying card. Wildly annoying.
It's annoying when you open your hand with 3 rare candies and no final evolutions that you're trying to get into.
And you got a professor's research it, and you're like, well, I guess I lose now.
Yeah, hashtag rip Decidueye players. But a lot of people are saying that this card needs to be banned and expanded. Expanded is just a mess of a format, so we'll see. Sean, I'm sure I'll talk about it at least one point. But Sean, would you like to move on to the next one?
Yeah, I'll quickly do the next two. Actually, Copycat is coming back. If you're not familiar, this was, another reprint of a card, meaning if you have your old Copycat full arts, dust them off. Maybe something to pick up if in some universe you want to play this card.
Celestial Storm. I believe that's when Copycat was printed as a full art.
So yeah, you basically draw a number of cards equal to the cards in your opponent's hand. It could be good. It could be good. I think especially in a format where the only big draw supporters you have right now, you have Research and Marnie. Those are the big ones. Outside of that, you don't have something like a Cynthia. Like we had Cynthia in past formats, had a lot of decks, especially decks that had items and other things they didn't want to get rid of. Speaking of rare candy, you would play Cynthia so that you wouldn't have to discard them. You could instead shuffle your hand and then draw them. And, this could be in the meantime until we get another shuffle draw that isn't, a Marnie where it kind of more so limits your hand. Yeah, I could see this getting played in those decks.
I think that this is good, but I don't think it's like super, super good.
Yeah.
Just because of for now at least, you have Reset Stamp on top of that, as well as Marnie. But yeah, I just see too much shuffle. I just see too much shuffle of your hand right now. But I think it could be like a one or a two of kind of how Bruno is. Bruno sometimes is a shuffle draw card, especially for the smaller Pokemon decks, your one prizers especially.
Yeah. But the next one that's like a new card is Crystal Cave. Once during each player's turn, that player may heal 30 damage from each of their metal and dragon Pokemon. I mean, this makes sense given that the set was for features like Rayquaza, Duraludon, which is a metal and dragon. I'm like, it's okay. Maybe there's a world in which the math on this adds up. But there is another stadium card that I think most dragon and or metal decks, especially dragon though, would prefer to play. So, but I will say maybe something like this in a not Rayquaza VMAX, but maybe in a metal deck where you're also trying to reduce damage. In expanded, I could actually see this being maybe good if Luke Metal is for whatever reason good in expanded, or some metal deck in expanded is good. Combine that with a full metal wall and metal, frying pan and this, and all of a sudden, you've got a big beefy thing.
I think that this card is way better post rotation just because we'll lose Marshadow, we'll lose Chaotic Swell. And it's like Rough Sea's reprint where I think Rough Sea was water and electric Pokemon heal 30. Obviously the math is different because Pokemon hit harder now and Pokemon are so much bigger. But I think the 30, I haven't run any of the numbers, but I feel like the 30 can do really well at certain points, especially when we lose a lot of the reasons that we don't play stadiums right now. So I could see this card being pretty all right, but I'll save my thoughts in comparison to when we go over the other stadium card that Sean is talking about.
Jake, do you want to cover off on maybe the next two?
We don't need to talk about Digging Gloves. I mean, it's another glove card that does a weird effect with damage, and you're probably never going to use it, and I don't really think you should. So we'll go on to Dream Ball. Sean, Dream Ball, you can play this card if you took it as a face-down prize card before you put it in your hand. Search your deck for a Pokemon, put it onto your bench, then shuffle your deck. This is interesting. It doesn't say basic Pokemon.
Nope, it does not. That's I think what makes this a good card.
I think it's really interesting, especially when you combo this with a card like Peonia. Peonia, it's not Gladion. Peonia is not Gladion, sadly. But if you don't know what that card is, it's a relatively new card that came out in Chilling Reign, where you take 3 of your prize cards, look at your hand, and then put 3 cards from your hand as your 3 prizes that you took. I think that's the order of operation, Sean.
Yes. Yeah, you replace your hand with 3 cards in your hand with 3 cards in your prizes, and you don't reshuffle or do anything with the prizes. So
Yeah.
if you're playing correctly, you know where the dream ball would be.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this I think is going to be a very good card in certain decks. The question is it going to be a good enough card for you to want to play your supporter for it? Because that's the main thing, right? It's like you're playing a supporter for turn. It's not a draw card. So you kind of already need to have something. So maybe comboing this with, I don't know if Shadow Rider Calyrex needs anything like this. That's the problem. But like any other, single prize stage 2 deck, you could run the Chinchinos. That's your draw engine, and that will afford you the opportunity to play Peonias instead of a, Professor's Research. And yeah, you put those there. I think that the Charizard that does more damage for each Leon in your discard, I think decks like that could be interesting with this because, you can
Just get a free Charizard on the bench.
Yeah, and Charizard only needs 2 energy, so you don't even need to play. You don't need to worry about supporter cards attaching extra energy. This is all post Welder, by the way. So all of that combined, like, I think that could be really interesting. It could also be good for, any stage 2 deck. But, yeah, it's my thought. It's very interesting. It's also a sneaky way to get a VMAX onto the field potentially.
Mm-hmm.
So, if there are ever any VMAX that, getting it onto the field now, like at the end of your turn by drawing this card, if you had maybe a Shadow Rider deck and there's another Psychic VMAX that you can power up very quickly on the following turn, that is pretty gross.
I think that I try to think of an idea because like you would need, like you said, you have Peonia, you would need a draw supporter that is, or you would need a deck somewhat like Shadow Rider where it is self-draw, where through like abilities herself, it has an aggressive draw power. So like where you were saying the Chinchinos as well. I'm thinking like I'm thinking about Inteleon if it's worth it, the Inteleon lines, because that has become ever more popular, Sean. The Sobble Drizzile the Drizzile that has the ability of grabbing a trainer card.
Yeah.
And then whether that's quick shooting Inteleon or the Shady Dealings Inteleon, it's just become a more popular addition into a lot of these meta decks as of right now in Standard. I wonder if it's worth it for that to get like a quick shooting Inteleon out on the field. Because there are some decks that want to utilize the quick shooting, but the reason that I think quick shooting is so good is because of the abilities that you incorporate with it of like grabbing the trainers and stuff. So I don't know exactly. I think you would do this if you had quick shootings, but if you had Shady Dealings, I don't think you would.
Yeah, I like that. I like the idea of like you put another sort of damage modifier Pokemon onto your bench too. And, you could create situations with that where your opponent then, they might be in their head thinking, oh, well, the most damage you can do is X, right? You don't have a Drizzile on the bench that at the beginning of the turn. Your dude's hit for this much. You can put this many damage counters. And in their brain, they might be thinking, you're going to be a couple damage short. Cool. I'm good. I'm chill. Then all of a sudden, you swing, knock something out. So, I'm talking about the following turn. You knock something out. And then all of a sudden you put a quick shooting Inteleon down, and maybe in their head, the math changes where they're like, oh, crap, I actually have to spend my turn chasing down this Inteleon maybe. And that makes a huge difference, right? Like if that's what they have to do for the turn, I think that is an interesting strategy to employ. I think in something like Expanded, I'm also thinking like this is very, very gross. I think it'll probably have to be banned and Expanded, if you want my opinion.
Really?
Because you can put things like the Omastar that locks trainers, item cards, or like any of those like abilities that lock things. So all you need to do is take one prize and then you can start locking. So if you have a deck that, let's say you're going second, right? And you can play Peonia, and put a Dream Ball into the discard. And if you can do all of that and just take one prize on that turn, then all of a sudden turn 2 you can lock them out. There may be better ways to do it, but
is Naganito Guzzlord's GX? You just like take 2 prizes on the plus.
Yeah. You just take 2 prizes on the GX attack, right?
Yeah, and I know that card is more relevant and expanded than it is standard. So, and with double dragon energy as well, all you need is, 1 double dragon and then just another energy, basically.
Yeah.
To get that thing going. So that's gross.
So, it may be so much of a combo that, like with Peonia, that it's not as bad of a problem. Which fair enough. But yeah, I think this is a really good card. In terms of card design, I love this card because it opens up a whole world of avenues, and big fan.
You just know that Sanders gonna break it in some control deck or something in standard. I just already know it. I can see it now, Sean.
I'll quickly talk about the next 2. Elemental Badge. I don't know. It's like some of the evolutions, like Vaporeon, Jolteon V, and Flareon V in its name. The thing is, I don't think this counts for the V Maxes because it doesn't have...
No, it should.
Well, it doesn't have Vaporeon V in its name. It's called Vaporeon V Max. And so, like, it's VMAX is one word. So I don't know if it applies to Vaporeon V Max and Jolteon V Max because... You know what I mean? Like, it's kind of weird. I would have to see a ruling on that, I guess. But
I mean, if you look at Decidueye, so you look at the Decidueye that blocks damage.
Well, it says
that
V
card
Pokemon.
Specifically says all your opponents' Pokemon V and GX.
Yes.
But that blocks VMAX moves. So I don't know. Maybe I would assume that this would have the same effect where, like, if you have Vaporeon VMAX, it also is Vaporeon V. But I mean, we'd have to get like a ruling on that.
I mean, maybe that could be also like bad Pokemon, a bit of awkward Pokemon translation there.
Yeah, it might be.
Because like the V or GX Pokemon is like, I think that's like shorthand for that type of card, which VMAX is that type. Whereas this, it specifically calls out Vaporeon V in its name. And I'm like, I don't know if VMAX has it in its name. It has Vaporeon in its name, but
I still don't know if this card is good enough to like really try to figure that out, though.
Yeah, no, that's fair. Not a great card. It basically you pay 1 less colorless, but it really doesn't matter. And then the next one is Full Face Shield. Basically, the Pokemon this card is attached to, except Pokemon with abilities, take 20 less damage. Also, probably not great. 20 less damage. I mean,
if it was like Metal Goggles and it stopped abilities.
Yeah, from dropping damage counters.
Yeah, or like cheeky things, then that would be way, way nicer. But
it doesn't.
This doesn't even you can't attach this to a Pokemon with an ability. I mean, you can. It just doesn't do anything.
And it's, I don't know. For me, this one is kind of like, I don't know what they thought of with the ability piece about 20 less damage. Maybe, there are some Pokemon that take less damage as part of the text on their ability. And maybe that was their thought, is they don't want people comboing it with that. But like, to be frank, look, taking 20 less damage per attack does matter mathematically more than just having 30 more HP. Because you think
it would matter more if we were in like a 3-hit format with these gigantic Pokemon.
That's true. Yeah. So it's like, it's not like this 20 less damage stops you being a 2-hit probably. It does if the meta really becomes like 170 damage is the average, which there are a bunch of VMAXs that's kind of what they top out at, right? That 170, because conceptually they're designed to be 2-hit KOs. And yeah, something like this, that's super annoying. But like, you know what else does that? 30 HP. And that's big charm. And I'm like, then why are you here, full face shield?
Mm-hmm.
Jake, do you want
It's
to talk about the
interesting,
next?
Sean. We've got another one. Gordy, our first supporter that we're talking about. Look at the top 7 cards of your deck. Choose as many energy as you like. Reveal them. Then put them in your hand. Shuffle the cards in the remaining deck. It's almost like a free research, except you don't have to discard anything. And you draw the things that you want and keep the rest of your hand.
Yeah.
So I can see it.
Yeah. If you, if all you need is energy, right?
Like if you're Shadow Rider Calyrex,
Oh yeah.
like would you maybe think that this is like a valid one of
No.
in your deck?
I'm gonna say no because Shadow Rider already has draw, right? And you discard and draw.
Yeah,
2.
but like this is free draw and you don't have to discard anything else out of your hand.
Yeah, but I think it has enough draw, and in Shadow Rider, unless you have like 3 Shadow Riders down, the value you get is minimal because like you can still only attach 1 per turn for each Shadow Rider Calyrex. And so I think this makes way more sense in a deck that can attach multiple energy at once. So whether that is like Cherim, maybe, right? Any deck that is running Cherim and is using the grass acceleration from that, yeah, maybe Gordo's a good card because grass decks typically, I think, don't. I don't know. There's a lot of cards in grass decks that you don't like to just discard a bunch of stuff. And if all you need is like 2 or 3 energy in hand, there's not really a better way to just search your deck for 2 or 3 energy. But the one thing I will point out here is like, I think that the supporter is only good in the early game because afterwards, given your, like, if you think about deck ratios, right? Deck ratios would suggest that even out of the top 7, the most energy you're probably going to find is 2 on average, right? Any more than that, and like your deck is probably not very good because you're drawing into way too many energy. But you're probably finding 2 off of that. You know another way that you can get 2 energies anytime in the mid game onwards? Energy retrieval. And it's not your supporter. And I'm like, well, that's just better. That's just better, right? So this is interesting in a very specific kind of deck, I think.
I'm still mad that when EV Heroes dropped and everyone got mad at pulling 7 Gordys in their booster boxes. I offered up, I said, send me a Gordy. I'll take it off your hands. Nobody sent me a Gordy. No. Still mad. Y'all fake.
Oh, no.
Hold it to my grave, Sean.
How do you feel about this next card, Jake?
I feel like Lucky Popsicle doesn't matter. Okay. I don't think it's that great.
All right.
We can't manipulate coin flips right now. There's no Victini that allows us to re-coin flip. I don't care about it. If you do want to know about it, though, heals 20 damage from your active Pokemon. Then you flip a coin. If heads, return this card to your hand instead of discarding it.
I mean, I'm just imagining a world, Jake, in which somebody is going to build a. This is a meme. This is a meme card, but you luck sack your way into this card, and then you heal 300 damage in 1 turn.
That's so absurd. That's like assuming that if it's the only card you've got, then you have to hit heads 14 times, and then if you see other cards, though, I mean, you still have to hit heads like 10 times.
I mean, I don't know. There's something about this card that says to me, I don't think it's good, Jake. I don't think it's good, but
it's bad.
I think that you will, any content creators who happen to be listening to the pod as well, if you want a free idea for a video, build a deck with 4 of these in it, and eventually you will get a clip of you hitting heads with enough of these where you heal like 200 damage with an item
there
card.
needs to be a challenge between Pokemon content creators of like how many heads in a row you can hit on Lucky Popsicle. Free content right there.
Yeah.
Challenge the greatest.
Like, can you fully heal a VMAX with 1 Lucky Popsicle?
Yeah. How lucky are you with your Lucky Popsicle, Sean? But going over to a not lucky card, a strategic card, Sean. I'll go over Sun and Moon badge real quick. It's basically like the elemental badge with the EVs, except this one is Espeon V and Umbreon V. And instead of a colorless less attack or a one less colorless attack, say that 5 times fast. Your opponent plays a supporter card from your hand and you prevent all effects of that card done to this Pokemon. So things like Boss's Orders doesn't affect you. If your Espeon or Umbreon V or VMAX has this attached to it, I think Melodic is better. The Melodic that prevents your bench from supporters.
Yeah.
I think it's better than this. It's easier to find this because it's a tool card. I guess it's not evolving a Pokemon, but I just think Melodic is just way better, especially with the Zoroark decks right now, or I should say the Zoroark decks that will be coming, because the Zoroark that we went over last week is not actually out yet in Evolving Skies. But I think that Zoroark is just going to be, I think that's the reason that it makes a card like Melodic better.
Yeah, I would agree. Like, it's a cool concept, and maybe there'll be more supporter cards that affect your Pokemon directly. Like, Team Yell Grunt is a card. The problem with saying like, oh, this is good against Team Yell Grunt too. The problem with saying that though is like a lot of those decks would just start playing Tool Scrappers, and then it's this. You're in the same position where like, oh, they've gotten rid of the card. I would have loved. This is a little crazy. I would have loved if they added to some of these tool cards, because I think they're vastly underpowered. That this tool can't be discarded by the effects of your opponent's trainer cards. I think that's a thing that I think they should start doing, because that way Tool Jammer still works, right? It still allows for Tool Jammer to interact with it, and it still allows for other Pokemon. Like, there are Pokemon that when they hit another one, they say discard a tool from your opponent's active Pokemon. You still have some ability to do that. But if you gave it to cards like this that were vastly underpowered, that says you can't just Tool Scrapper this away, then like that's actually really interesting, right? Like, okay, cool. And then your opponent could, try to do like escape rope shenanigans, bait this out, and then Tool Jammer, if they have a Tool Jammer on their active, that's another way to get around it. So, I don't know. Just a little tip there for Creatures Inc., who I know is not listening, but
But I hope that they're listening, Sean, because Raihan is a cool card, in my opinion. I think it's going to be a pretty decent card, I will say. You can only play this card once during you can only play this card if one of your Pokemon were knocked out during your last turn. So there's a clause in there. Only if your Pokemon was knocked out in the previous turn. Choose one basic energy card from your discard pile, attach it to one of your Pokemon, then search your deck for any one card and put it in your hand, then shuffle your deck. I think this is cool. Not only is it somewhat of an energy acceleration, but you're grabbing exactly what you need in here, whether that's like another Calyrex VMAX or, you do need an evolution. If you get something like Drizzile, maybe you just grab a Drizzile or you burn an evolution incense or whatever, boom, there's another trainer card for you right there. Or like, let's say you don't have any quick balls or anything like that. You can just use Raihan to grab like a Crobat or, at least for now, Dedenne, like some sort of thing that can help you draw cards to, not allow you to like just get stuck right after Raihan. Because we say like, after Peonia or like, saw a lot of these other supporters like, okay, they're good, but like in this format, do you really want to give up that turn of no draw? And so Raihan gives you a lot of flexibility, being able to grab anything, allowing you potentially as well to just draw more cards. I think it's a really, really cool card.
Yeah, I agree. I think obviously it has a lot of you can do a lot of things with it, right? Because it's Energy Excel plus grab a card. And I know Rayquaza VMAX is probably not tier 1. But actually this is really good in Urshifu Rapid Strike. I'm just remembering, because its second attack requires 3 energy, right? and you can attach an energy, any kind, basic, and then go grab the Rapid Strike energy if you don't have it in hand, and then boom, you are swinging for 120 damage at 2 things again. So
yeah, and that's assuming that you don't have. That's assuming that you don't have,
The
you
Rapid
know,
Strike.
the one of those 2 energies already like in your hand.
yeah, and that's huge. Another thing is Rayquaza VMAX. If you had, say, 2 Flaffies, I believe, on the bench, and a Rayquaza VMAX on the bench because you were a smart person and play Altaria with free retreat, so that's what's up in the active. Yeah, you just attach 1 fire energy, grab whatever, maybe a fire energy, you Flaffy 2 lightnings on, attach the fire energy from hand, and then you're good to go with a second Rayquaza VMAX. 4 energy, and all you needed was 1 Raihan to do it. Now, Rose has a similar effect, but the good thing about this is I think this is maybe a good alternative or addition to like Rose engines, where if you don't want to discard your whole hand, you don't need to, you know? So I quite like this Raihan as well. Yeah.
I like the Raihan. I think it'll be really, really cool. Its full art also looks incredible for anyone who hasn't checked those out. But speaking of Rayquaza, Sean, I find this card to be very interesting. The Rapid Strike Scroll Flying Dragon Scroll. It's a tool card. We've seen the scrolls before with Rapid and Single Strike when Battle Styles was out, but this one is different. It is a Single Strike card, or I'm sorry, a Rapid Strike card, Rapid Strike, Rapid Strike, Rapid Strike. For fire and lightning, discard 2 energy from this Pokemon, does 90 damage to one of your opponent's bench Pokemon. The only way I see this being played is if you're really afraid of the mirror match of Rayquaza VMAX. That's like really all I see this. But I don't know if it's like valid enough.
I'm going to do one quick little search. Are you saying that because you can snipe the Flaffies?
Yeah, you could just snipe over the Flaffies because I believe they're
90
less than
HP.
100, right?
They're exactly 90. So that card
Yeah.
was clearly designed with Flaffy in mind because it's exactly 90. So
it's the same energy cost as Rayquaza VMAX's attack, I believe. It's just like an interesting idea. It's only 1 Pokemon though. I mean, you've also got the pest. If you're really worried about like other matchups that like maybe you need to get rid of something on the bench, or I don't know what kind of cheeky things you're thinking, but you know, with the Passimian, with the well, you can't use the telescopic sight because you can only have 1 tool card, but Passimian will let you do 120.
Yeah. It's not bad.
And I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I don't yet know where this lives because the problem with something like this is unless you're sniping something because it has very low HP, and we're actually going to get to an item card here I think that's really interesting later. But unless you're sniping something on the bench that will give you 3 prizes, taking a turn off with your attack to snipe, you know, a Flaffy just kind of feels like suboptimal. Do you know what I mean? Like where it's like, if you're Rayquaza VMAX and you're swinging for all that damage and you're choosing to snipe a Flaffy instead, that's not to say it's terrible because maybe it makes sense. Maybe you're sitting here like, oh, if my opponent can get into their own Rayquaza VMAX. But otherwise, yeah, this, I don't know. We'll have to see what the meta shapes up to. There may be some strategies where this matters, but otherwise I'm kind of like, meh. Seems like you're taking too many turns off by sniping little single prizers.
I mean, I think that's why Urshifu VMAX is going to be better than Rayquaza. But that's also 2 Pokemon. So 2 is obviously better than 1 in a single attack.
You're sitting here like, okay, this is killing 1 thing maybe. And unless it's a 3 prizer, you're getting 1 prize. Rayquaza can get 2 prizes or can clean up on 2 prizers or even 2 3 prizers, right? And then just end the game with that attack. And this does not offer that.
You know what is offered, Sean, in this set? Rescue Trolley. Choose up to 2 Pokemon with 90 HP or less from your discard pile, reveal them, put them into your hand.
great. I love anybody who's playing single prize decks is gonna love this.
Any Inteleon engine, any Cincino engine, really anything that plays level ball,
Mm-hmm.
this card is included.
Yep. I could even see this if Mad Party continues for whatever reason in some form to be a thing. This is great because you can get all those Mad Partiers in the trash and get maximum damage, and then just grab 2 of them back, and maybe discard 1, and then get maximum damage again for your deck. And because that's the problem with that I have found with Mad Party is that you really only ever get 1 turn roughly of max damage, and then after that you just lose, because if you don't win on that turn, you lose because now you're out of people to attack with, and okay, I got nothing else. I mean,
yeah, it's a very interesting idea, and it allows you especially to be way more aggressive in the beginning. Like we kind of joked around earlier with like rare candies. Like you start off your hand with 3 rare candies. Well, let's say you start off your hand with 3 stage 1s. And you're like, ah, crap, I got to research. This card allows you that flexibility to be like, all right, I'll discard them because I can get them right back anyways.
That's
assuming that
actually
they're
a
90
huge-
HP.
Yeah, that's a big point, because a lot of stage 1s, unless they're like there are some, but a lot of decks also, you can choose different stage 1s. So if you have a deck that's a stage 2 and you don't need the stage 1 to be a specific one, you can just play the 90 HP version of that, right? And yeah, like that's also huge. Very good point.
Sean, do you want to go over the next couple cards?
Yeah, I think this ribbon badge, I'll quickly say it's for Sylveon V. It's another one of those badges for the evolutions. But if it is knocked out, you take one less prize card. This is the only one that I could see getting played a lot in Sylveon.
I don't think a lot of people are playing Sylveon though, or at least from what I've seen on like Twitter and stuff of like testing, not a lot of people are talking about Sylveon.
I think if you are playing it, then you run this. If you're not playing it, then obviously you're not running it. But I think of all of them though, for its counterpart, Evolution, this is the most valuable, because now you can play the Sylveon VMAX, and your opponent has to kill 3 Sylveon VMAXs to win if they go that route, which is super annoying.
I mean, like with Sylveon VMAX, you compare it at least before rotation with triple acceleration. Max Harmony, which I'll mention it for anyone who doesn't know, 70 plus 30 more damage for each type of Pokemon on your bench. So like it being a rapid strike Sylveon VMAX, it could go well with this card, but like with the Sylveon VMAX, you definitely have to commit to the different typings, right? Because you can have Urshifu VMAX, you can have the Moltres in there. Maybe you have like a Dedenne or something. You can provide a little bit of bench space to get a bit of damage. The Octillery, getting a water Pokemon in there to search for something rapid strike. But I don't know if you're playing a toolbox thing like that, like a rapid strike box. I don't know if you have room for this.
You may be right. You may be right that it's not. But if all you need is like one of these or 2 of these, I don't know how you build a deck. I think it is compared to all the others, right? Of the evolution.
I think compared
badges.
to all the others, is the best one. I mean, because nobody plays Tool Scrapper.
Yeah.
Right now, unless you're like Control or like Decidueye, maybe. Like you're not playing Tool Scrapper. Nobody's playing things to get rid of your item cards. So like if you can find it, you can put it on. Like that's super, super great, and it allows you to have a lot of flexibility, right? Because then you would require 1 more prize.
Yep.
Essentially, and if you're playing VMAX Pokemon, that's 3 VMAX knockouts.
Yeah.
If you only find one of these ribbon badges. So like I see the validity. I just don't know if Sylveon VMAX has room for it.
Really quick, we'll skip over the rubber gloves. Another glove for lightning Pokemon.
The gloves are trash. Don't worry about it.
Shopping Mall is another stadium. It's not the good stadium that we were talking about. You can choose a Pokemon tool card attached to one of your Pokemon in play and return it to your hand once per turn for each player. It's one of their Pokemon in play, by the way, so you can't do it to your opponent. Kind of like, cool, I can put a tool back in my hand. Pointless. In my
I would only
opinion.
see it if you were like maybe some sort of like control deck or something like that, or a deck like Rapid Strike Urshifu that really focuses on switching
Mhm.
every single turn. Maybe you don't have a free retreater, and you got to leave something in the active.
Yeah.
Like I could see it being then, or maybe you're something like as of right now, Shadow Rider Calyrex VMAX.
Mhm.
If you start something really bad like Trevenant and Dusknoir, it's really hard to retreat and you got to leave it in the active, but you feel like it's going to get knocked out anyways, you can get your air balloon back that you had to attach to it earlier if you know you're going
Huh.
to lose it or something. But I feel like it's super niche that.
Yeah, that's sort of my thought is that like it is interesting, right? Like especially with telescopic sights or like you said, air
Mhm.
balloons. There are tools that you're like, I wish I could put this on a different body, but I don't know if you care enough to play that as your stadium of choice in a deck.
Yeah, I think it would be better. I mean, it would be better if it was your opponent's thing, because then you compare it with like Marnie or Stamp.
Um, and I'll just do this next one, and then you can take the next few after that. It's a single strike scroll. It basically is a scroll for single strike. It's a tool for fighting metal, colorless. You can do 300 damage if you discard all energy.
Just play
I
Zacian.
yeah, I'm like I think the only deck that you could ever see this being played in, Jake, is actually a single strike single prizer because you
It
can
has to
attach
be
it.
with Houndoom.
Yeah, you could play this with Houndoom, and I think playing it in a single prizer deck, that means you can use twin energy, which is crucial for this. And yeah, a single prizer all of a sudden coming up and doing 300. It doesn't matter if you discard the energy because your dude's dying anyways on the following turn if there is a following turn. So it's like, yeah, maybe as a one of to like either knock out or to set up a knockout on a VMAX, but yeah,
Gmax one blow on Urshifu VMAX is just simply better, in
yeah,
my opinion. Sure,
yes.
you're doing 30 less damage, but it's just simply better, I think, overall.
Jake, do you want to take it all the way till the that stadium that we were hinting at?
So Snowleaf Badge, it's another evolution attachment card. What am I thinking? Tool card. That's the word. It's Glaceon and Leafeon. If this Pokemon is attached to Glaceon or Leafeon, it has no retreat cost or weakness.
Mhm.
If you're like building specifically Leafeon VMAX or Glaceon VMAX, I think Celios Network has been really thinking about like grass box decks with Leafeon V and VMAX because of Leafeon V's ability. I think you would play it in there, but I just don't know how like Air Balloon's just like not better.
Yeah, I mean, the ability to turn off weakness is big, because
It would be different if like it would be different. It's good for Glaceon, right? Because like metal decks are running
yes,
around.
exactly.
But with Leafeon, I don't see it because fire decks are not prevalent.
Yeah, I mean, we are losing. I will say we are losing weakness card energy to rotation. So until another weakness preventing card exists, that is easy to play in these decks, in these very specific decks, like fine. But yeah, there's not going to be very many fire decks. So Leafeon's not really going to need it. Glaceon's probably okay, but like Glaceon VMAX already has the thing if it can't be attacked by other VMAXs. So I guess in Glaceon VMAX, you would put this on to stop Zacian, which is not a VMAX, which can still hit through Glaceon VMAX. You put it in there. But outside of that, they're interesting, but very limited.
The Spirit Mask as well. I don't know if it's super great, but I think it's kind of cool and it's kind of niche. It's a tool card as well. If this Pokemon this attached to is in the active spot and damaged by an attack from your opponent's attack, even being knocked out, opponent chooses a card from their hand and discards it. Doesn't say your opponent. I don't know if this is like a random card or if you get to look at their hand and choose the card.
It says your
But
opponent
I think if it
chooses
was
a card.
choose, it would say like your opponent reveals their hand and then you discard a card.
Yeah, it says your opponent chooses. So the person your opponent.
It says your opponent chooses. I'm sorry, I can't read.
No, yeah, so they get to pick, but it's still annoying, right? Because like,
it's a control specific card.
Yeah, I could see this working in. The problem is a lot of cards now, like to get cards in the discard. So
Mm-hmm.
in weird ways, it might actually benefit the attacker to be like, oh, excellent, I can discard this energy. Because like control decks tend to play a little bit slower. And so if you're not taking knockouts, maybe energy's not getting into the trash or other things aren't getting into the trash. I think that's the problem with this card is like, in theory, like, oh, that's kind of interesting. Maybe you're playing a wall stall, right? And so you never get knocked out. Every turn your opponent attacks, they have to discard a card. But yeah, I don't know.
But Sean, I know you've been excited about
have.
this next card, this stadium. Let's go over it.
Okay. Rock and roll, Jake. You can talk through
Oh,
this.
you want me to? Oh,
Yeah,
I was trying to get you to do it, but
Oh.
I'll do it. Okay. Once during your player's turn, that player may search for a basic lightning or that's dragon, right? N
Yes.
is dragon.
Yes, N is dragon.
Dragon. I don't know why it's N. Well, D is dark, but like, oh gosh, it's so weird. Dragon Pokemon and put it onto their bench. Then that player shuffles their deck. This is basically Brooklet Hill for anyone that doesn't or that may remember Brooklet Hill for fighting and rock type Pokemon, I believe. You can just put a basic down on your bench. Very, very good. Brooklet Hill was very good during its tenure. I think especially because we're getting Dragon Pokemon around and with Flaffy. I agree with Sean. I think this is just the stadium of choice that you play in Rayquaza VMAX.
Yep. Yeah, there's no reason not to play. There's no reason to play any other stadium because the minus 30 damage, it's like it doesn't matter. And this is just like it's a consistency card for you to find Rayquaza or the pre-evolution to Flaffy. And it's
Married.
like you could play Mareeps, you can play Rayquazas, you can do it once per turn. Now, the only negative with this card is that it's kind of like Welder in that whenever you see the mirror, you're kind of playing a game of chicken.
Yeah, it's like Giant Hearth.
Yeah, Giant Hearth. That's it. Yeah. It's like Giant Hearth where it's like you get into this game of chicken where, if lightning or dragon decks are more prevalent, whether it's Rayquaza or any other one, it's going to benefit your opponent too. So that's the only thing. But, odds are the first person who puts this down, that means that all of the Stormy ranges in everyone's decks are now like dead cards because you can't even play them. You just have to discard them.
It'll be a lot less of a game it'll be a lot less of a game of chicken with like Marshadow around before rotation
for like 2 weeks
because you have that. And then similar to what kind of people are doing right now, if you have a stadium that also helps your opponent, but you don't have any reason to use Marshadow, maybe you're playing like a mirror, you could just use Marshadow to get rid of that stadium after you use it.
Yeah, that's true. You can put it down, throw down Marshadow, but yeah, after rotation, this will definitely, it's a good card, but use it wisely.
Yeah, you gotta be careful. You gotta be careful. Swap Cup. Switch a card from your hand with the top of your deck.
Oranguru
card
as item. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just Guru, but an item. I mean, people aren't even playing Guru right now, so does it really matter that much, Sean?
I don't know. I mean, there could be situations where this is good. The same way that with Oranguru, right? But I don't think this will be played because this is a trainer that you use and it's gone forever. I just think Oranguru is better if you need this strategy. So because it's not even like Judge Whistle where it's just like draw the top card of your deck. People play Judge Whistle because it basically turned their deck into a 56 card deck rather than a 60 card deck. This doesn't do that. You don't draw, you just swap. So it's like, okay.
You just replace.
Exactly. I
will say though, Sean,
Yes.
if you want to talk about this next one, I like this card.
I agree with you. To me, this is going to be at least a 2 of in a lot of decks that do almost Oko damage. And I'm even looking at like, Rayquaza VMAX could play this. I think depending on the build.
Ice Rider could maybe play this as well with the quick shooting Inteleons.
That's exactly what I was thinking. Yeah, you get quick shooting Inteleon, Ice Rider, you get them down to low HP. What it does, I'll actually talk about what it does. Switch one of your opponent's bench Pokemon with 50 HP or less with their active. It is literally, it's called Toy Catcher, and I think the reason there is that like thematically they're talking about like you're swapping out a baby Pokemon, like something that's really low HP to start with. But in reality, it is, you could have called it Mercy Kill, right? Which is basically like switch out the Pokemon you couldn't kill on the last turn with the active. And, between this boss's order, the Zoroark with like Bloodthirsty, or whatever the card VMAX or V with Bloodthirsty eyes, basically. Umbreon, yes. Between that, there's going to be a lot more
Fion.
Yeah, and then Fion, but Fion is your opponent chooses, so it's like
Fion's a little different, but like it's still like switch cards that put your opponent in cheeky situations. But like I like this card not only because of that, but because we've talked about a lot of different damage modifier cards as of right now. There's a lot of these cards. We saw like the Rough Seas reprint. We saw the which card? There was a card that prevented like 20 damage or whatever from
the helmet.
Your Pokemon, things like that. The Lucky Popsicle, even that as well. I think that this does a good job fitting with the set. Maybe not so much the meta, but I think with all the different little health modifiers that are around, I think that this is fine. And then also with the quick shooting Inteleon, like I mentioned, like this combos well with that, because if you don't one-shot something like Ice Rider Calyrex, usually you can use the quick shootings to put a lot of pressure on, and that could help you do like a old switcheroo type thing.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, I really like this because it's free gust on a Pokemon that you need to kill. So yeah, if you're running a deck that doesn't have any bench snipe, like Urshifu doesn't need this, just straight up. But other decks could
Urshifu would only need it if there was a bench barrier in format.
Yeah, well, yes, yeah. But like bench barrier is 60 HP, so unless you've done at least 10 damage to it, right?
Well, I was saying like because with Urshifu, a lot of times you're 120, 150, so like 270, maybe a little bit of something else on top of that, with the 2 attacks from Urshifu. So like if you got something with 270 on it, 320 is pretty much in range for a lot of the VMAXs. That's 50. That's a gust up to take 3 prizes, especially with bench barrier around.
Yeah, that's a good point. I see what you mean there. I really like the card. I think the last 2, we have Zinnia's Resolve. Discard 2 cards from your hand to play the card, and then you draw 1 for each of your opponent's Pokemon in play. This is kind of like a reimagined Erica's Hospitality. It just has slightly different qualifiers, which I don't dislike this because there are some times, like we said, that you want to discard cards, but like if you can discard and then draw 6, discard 2, draw 6, that's like really good. Better than our professor's research, I would argue. So you might start seeing some Zinnia's Resolves in decks, but obviously the problem with the card is it's too reliant on your opponent having a specific board state, and like you may just have turns where your opponent only has 3 Pokemon, and you're like, I don't want to discard 2, draw 3. That sucks. So
yeah, I mean, I think that this is like a one of. I think Zinnia's Resolve is a one of. Like you said, you combo this with things that you maybe want to discard and decks of things that you do want to discard. But it's more of like a late game thing, when the game is developed and the benches have developed. There's a lot of decks right now that just fill up their bench. There's a lot of bench stuff in this format, especially with the additions of the Inteleons and things like that. I keep saying the Inteleons. I don't know how many. Somebody count how many times I've said it today, but I think that this is pretty all right. And plus, like, if Eternatus is still around, right, when this set drops, this is a good counter to Eternatus, or I shouldn't say counter. It's like a good way to help that matchup because you're just going to draw so many cards.
Yeah.
But I like this card, but not enough to make it like a 4 of. It's more like a 1 or 2 at max.
Yeah, I would agree. You put it in there because maybe it's sometimes that's exactly what you need. You don't need to discard your whole hand, and you need to draw a decent number of cards, and boom, Zinnia's Resolve, pretty good.
Yeah. Treasure energy, the special energy in this set. If you took this card as a face down prize card during your turn, face down, before you put it into your hand, you may attach it to one of your Pokemon. It provides a colorless energy. Kind of cool interaction. Sean, we've seen these prize cards with Dream Ball, now Treasure Energy, that kind of it makes you think about playing around with prizes more, especially because we have Peonia in the format. I think that this card is cool. I like what they've done, like overall, now that we've talked about this for 2 weeks. We've discussed essentially 2 hours of this set of theory crafting and like cards and stuff. I think this set is a really good set in terms of like introducing ideas and giving you like combos alongside those new ideas. Like it's not just a one thing that's come out, like with the prize card manipulation, there's 2 cards in this set. And there's 1 card recently from a previous set that like give that expansion of the idea. So I think that's really, really cool for like creatures to do that, have things that like mesh well together.
I also think that they've done a good job at creating both cards and new supporters that make more supporters viable in the format, because for a very long time, it was like, what supporters are you playing? Well, research Marnie Boss. Why would I play anything else, right? And with these cards, to your point about Peonia, you've got cards that interact with it that maybe Peonia is the right card. Not in every deck, but in some decks. You've got Raihan, another great card that it's like, maybe I don't need to play for Marnie or whatever. Zinnia's Resolve is kind of another one where I think mixing up the supporter line, that's one thing that you'll see in especially expanded decks. You almost never see a 4 of supporter line in an expanded deck because there's just so many good supporters that you're like, no, I will just play.
And plus, you have things like Versus Seeker, which allows you to get it right away. You have Tapu Lele, which allows you to just find it in your deck. Man, I wish for a Tapu Lele reprint, to be honest, Sean.
I actually think that we'll probably be getting a supporter search reprint soon. That would not surprise me, just because, and maybe it has been announced and I'm not remembering it. But the reason I say that, Jake, is that it's a mechanic that's been around in some form in Pokemon for so long that it's bound to come back soon, because we've been without supporter search, whether from the discard or the deck, for too long now.
Well, Eldegoss.
Yeah, okay, there we go. Yeah, we have Eldegoss, but
I don't know. I just think, I just want Lele. Lele was such a cool card.
Yeah.
When it was around, when I was playing in those retro tournaments and using Lele, it was such a cool card. But there are some other cool cards in here, Sean. There are the secret rares as well. I'm just going to go over, there's 3 shiny Pokemon secret rares. So every set now in like Sword and Shield, they've got like some shiny Pokemon cards, whether that's like Octillery Berserker, Snorlax as of recent. There's 3 of the Pokemon now, one of them being the quick shooting Inteleon. So there's another Inteleon right there that I'm going to mention. Sean, before we finish, I gave you the question last week and I forgot to ask you, I forgot to follow up on that. What is your favorite card in this set? Whether that's like card design, playability, maybe it's your favorite Pokemon getting a card. What's your favorite card in this set?
This is a tough one. I probably this card, this Umbreon, not for playability. It's just the artwork is so good. It's just the colors are gorgeous. I really like this. It's hard to go wrong with a lot of the full arts in the set.
Yeah.
I mean, the Sylveon, also gorgeous.
I think Umbreon has probably one of the best art combos with the V and the VMAX, because the alternate art Umbreon V is also really, really good, in my opinion, with it standing on like the blocks and stuff and like being intimidating towards all the other Pokemon. If you see here on YouTube, the single strike Umbreon. But I think probably my favorite card, surprisingly, is Glaceon V alternate art. So if you don't know Glaceon V alternate art, as Sean's pulling up, it's sitting on a bench or like laying down on a bench in the snow. I don't know why. This just gives me like Glaceon is not even like probably not even in my like top 4 favorite evolutions, but there's something about this card that gives me just like a lot of serotonin and like a lot of warmth in my heart. I don't know.
I mean, obviously the cards that we both love from the set are like the things that made Eevee Heroes such a good set. And like, yeah, I just if this set is as sought after in whatever form, it'll be because of the Eevee Heroes cards from a collector standpoint. Now, I'll just say
not only that, Rayquaza VMAX as well.
Oh yeah, that as well. But I don't know. Like the problem though with this is, you know, people were pointing out like these cards will not be worth as much as the Eevee Heroes ones because the West prints way more. So, you know, get the cards, pick them up if you love them. But if you don't need them right away, wait a month, and then the prices will come down, and then you'll be big chillin'.
Yeah, I think you're just better off buying singles of this set. I think product's just going to be impossible, and so you might as well save yourself some time and money and just get the cards that you want. But Sean, that is going to wrap up the two-part episode, basically, of Evolving Skies. I think this is going to be a cool set. I'm excited for it to release. Probably talk more about the meta. I think it releases like right when rotation happens.
Yeah.
Right, because it got pushed back a little, like because the release got pushed back a little bit. So now it's the 4th Friday of August 28th.
You know what I think we can do, Jake?
27th.
I'll signal here. I think what we can do is maybe a post-rotation discussion. We'll talk about this offline, like how we want to do that. But I think that feels right because a big post-rotation discussion. A lot of people have been playing post-rotation for a long time. I mean, Pablo has been doing it since before Battle Styles, which I think I said on the pod before. I'm like, seems a bit premature. You have no idea what's going to be coming out in the next 2 sets.
Well, I mean, that's what people are interested in, right?
That's true.
People are interested in the next thing and trying to get ahead of the next thing and trying to be the first to create ideas and things like that and concepts.
But yeah, I think now is the right time to talk about it, and maybe that's what we should talk about next. But we'll discuss that after. See what you feel.
But either way, have a great rest of the day. Thank you so much for listening and watching, and we'll see you on the next pod.